What's going on, Taurus? This is Dom, your comic tour guide. Today we're going to make a dub feature this time because I really been procrastinating for the longest time, and I know that. I apologize for the wait, and I really want to get to some of the other books that I wanted to do because I know that doing one issue after another is starting to be a bit sluggish and boring. That said, the two issues that we're going to be covering to take a break from the Avengers is going to be issues 11 and 12. And then after that, the next videos I'm going to be doing is a little bit of X-Men. More specifically, the Weapon X solo miniseries by Barry Windsor Smith. And then the beginning of Chris Claremont's Giant Size X-Men arc that introduced like the second wave of the X-Men. Like Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, Nightcrawler, and the whole thing. But we're going to start on issue number 11 of Avengers from Volume 1 by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. And it starts with an Avengers meeting, with their usual monthly meeting. And usually, from what they said in the beginning, they had rotated leadership or chairmanship of who will be heading the meetings. And most often than not, you would see Thor take heed or take lead of these roles like he has in this issue. And he lets the rest of the Avengers know that at this time, Tony Stark is currently dead, or presumed dead, due to what happened in Tales of Suspense issue number, I believe, 61 and 62, where he had a daily encounter with the villain Whiplash. Now, to briefly cover on that, Tony Stark went, or aka Iron Man, went into a scuffle against the Whiplash. It caused damage to his heart plate, his arc reactor, that protected the shrapnel in his heart from his accident in his origins from being pushed further into his heart. So in the process, he had to lay low, and in order to make sure that he himself and his allies and friends were safe, he had to make it seem like he was dead. And because at the time nobody knew of his identity as Iron Man, just thought Iron Man was a bodyguard of Tony Stark, they figured that he disappeared or died as well. So they're trying to figure out what to do with that. And they also were pitching the idea to add new teammates to the role. You'll find that seems like Avengers and the X-Men have a really big rotating roster as their series goes along. In this instance, Rick Jones definitely plays second to that, but Captain America kind of shoots him down because he's not a member, so he has no pull in the meeting. He's just allowed to be there for their happenings. And two, he's still unsure about letting children join the fight, given his experience during World War II after losing Bucky. And he's still somewhat fixated on hunting down Zemo to avenge Bucky's death. So that's that. While they're talking over the event about happenings and basis on their Avengers meeting, we pan over to somewhere in time in some ship, and we close in and focus on King of the Conqueror, who's fixing to go for round 2 against the Avengers after his defeat in issue number 8. And he figures that he's going to take cues from Dr. Doom, his alleged ancestor. He's like, if I can't beat him with what I have, or right now, or why don't I just save myself the trouble and send a robot? Because Doom is one of the biggest things that Doom's known for is sending a lot of duplicates of himself in the form of these lifelike robots, to where you didn't know who was the real Dr. Doom. And he doesn't go so far as taking so many cues from Doom to making a copy of himself, but he makes a copy of another hero at the time where the Avengers are looking for new teammates and such. And one of his first candidates, or the best candidate he chooses, is Spider-Man, because he has one of the most closely held identities. He's very active, and his powers are very adaptable, and he's a smart person. So he figured he's going to have him infiltrate or throw off the Avengers, and then when at a moment of weakness, he would strike one of them piece by piece. So he builds a robot, sends it away, and then the Spider-Man robot goes to help the Avengers right in the middle of an altercation with some thugs. After defeating the thugs, they try and interact with Spider-Man, but he gives them a hard time, busting their chops and just generally insulting them. Now, a big component to Spider-Man's character, more specifically Peter Parker, is his sense of humor to kind of, hide the fact that he's scared or he's stressed out in these type of situations. It's a coping mechanism. But given how the robot is going so far to try and emulate Spider-Man, it makes him come off very mean spirited. So the Avengers were ready to just blow him off and just go about their business. But he leverages the thought of Tony Stark and Iron Man being alive and says that claims to know where he is. And he tricks them into traveling to Mexico at this place called the Temple of Tarud, or Tarad is Tirod, where they claim that if you follow me, I can help you look rescue Iron Man and Tony Stark. And hook, line, and sinker, they buy it. So they embark on a trip. They do it separately. Ant-Man and the Wasp, or Ant-Man / Giant Man and the Wasp, take to the skies. Thor flies with his hammer Mjolnir, and then everybody else takes a plane. So the first one to go out is Thor. Next one to go out is Giant Man and the Wasp. Despite them giving him the good run for his money with their tag teaming, altering sizes and such, they get webbed up too. And the further they go into the temple, the more effective that this robot is, or not effective that he is. The further along these Avengers get taken off piece by piece. So the last one is Captain America. And given that a lot of instances throughout the years where you see Captain America and Spider-Man go toe to toe for whatever reason, they are very closely matched. You'll find. And this is no different, even with this robot. Which, that said, should give you a gauge on how effective Spider-Man is with his powers and agilities, strengths and such, because he goes down too. Mixed with one more factor, Kang the Conqueror also sent a sedative gas to knock out each Avenger or dull their senses as the Spider-Man robot picked them off one by one. And just as he was about to send his signal or message back to Kang saying that he's about to finish them off, out of nowhere, the real Spider-Man comes in and takes the fight to him now. They don't say how he discovered that there was a clone, or whether the Avengers were in trouble, or how he managed to get to Mexico, because around this time, I think he was still roughly a teenager or still just about graduating high school. But that doesn't matter. He has a reputation to hold up. So he takes on the Spider-Man robot. They're very close toe to toe. And to preserve itself and escape for another day, it tries to leave the temple and creates these web wings out of his webbing. Because back in the day, Spider-Man could do that with his webbing. He can make different types of constructs and objects like hammers, hands, and such. But Peter Parker, the real one, wasn't having that, so he did the same thing and then took to the sky against them until he reached them. They got into a scuffle, and Spider-Man managed to catch a button by the back of his neck and disable the robot, causing them both to crash. He was fine, but that was just about it. He doesn't go back to check on the Avengers or interact with them. It's implied that he just goes home. But the Avengers do just eventually catch on and realize this was probably a fake created by somebody. Either way, it's been taken care of because they eventually wake up. They were fine. Kang the Conqueror didn't take the defeat well and just hangs his head in shame and dwells further down in his ship, and that's the end of issue 11. Issue number 12 just starts with Ant-Man receiving signals from his ants, and they are very, very feeling very threatened or panicky because there's been a lot of tremors and seismic activity going on underground, and he figured that this was worth mentioning at an emergency Avengers meeting that he calls up. But when he comes up and brings up the topic, not too many people are So not too many of his fellow peers are really on board or keen to hear out something related to his aunts. And he mentions some happenings in Fantastic Four issue number 22 and 22, where their first villain, the Mole Man, the Fantastic Four's villain, mind you, was known for doing a lot of underground activity with him and his Moloids. These like subterranean, like base level cavemen, like people that he controls. And Thor, who's the most adamant and against this theory, just shuts him down with okay, well, this also happened in their second fight in issue number third in issue number 31, and then nobody's ever heard from him again. And it just became such an intense argument between Thor and Giant Man, where Thor literally just blew him off and just left the meeting to blow off steam. Iron Man, who at this point returned from disappearing during his own issues in Tales of Suspense, went alongside Captain America to go calm down Thor and rein him in. Meanwhile, the Wasp said she had some type of appointment with a hairdresser, and Giant Man figured, if nobody's going to take me seriously, I'm going to go solo on this. Meanwhile, underground, before he comes across, before he meets his destination, he was right. Mole Man was plotting another scheme to take over the world, and he was having his Mole Mans build this machine called the atomic gyroscope, which was meant to shift the poles or the axis of the Earth to destroy all surface life. That way, he can bring his Moloids and his other people up to the surface and control the world. Ant-Man, or Giant Man rather, keeps traveling down to said area where it was at a random spot or a spot outside of the gyroscope's inner workings, and found like rods of light and other components that look like a machine, and he can't bust through them. But his tinkering and finicking around that area caught the attention of Mole Man, who could sense the activity going on and sent his Moloids to go check on what was about, which led to another altercation. And Giant Man put up a good fight against the Moloids, but their sheer numbers eventually got the best of him, and he got captured. That said, which led to Mole Man not wanting to wait for the next wave of enemies to come by and send a group to go attack the surface. Alongside that, it also incentivized him to speed up his process, which led to more seismic activities to the point where the entire world was feeling it and noticing it. Certain labs were getting off the chart readings. The Tower of Pisa was tipping over further than it already was, and the Avengers finally took his theory seriously, as well as the fact that they hadn't heard from him in hours. So they began to use devices that they previously used, like the image projector from issue number 3, which they used to go try and look for the Hulk. No sign of him on the surface, but Wasp went underground to confirm that Giant Man was right. Mole Man's onto something. We need to go underground and stop him. So they're quick to work, and Captain America brings up the fact that Tony Stark had just created these new type of transistor powered foxhole diggers. And Iron Man said, great idea. I'm missing some components though. Go to a nearby warehouse to get these parts. Take Rick Jones with you. And they do. And just as soon as he comes in, they arrive. There's a group of thugs on their way out, being led by this really minor villain known as Monk, who also later be known as Man-Ape, but he later on dies like in the next few years. He doesn't really have the handful of appearances. Doesn't matter. What matters is that once they show up, Captain America and Rick Jones make quick work of them, get the parts, go back. They finish the components, and all that's left is that they need to just pinpoint the location of where Mole Man's setting up doing his operations, which Thor easily does by using Mjolnir as a deafening rod. They find a location, they fly over, and then they get to digging. Back underground, Mole Man. Oh, mind you, the group of Moloids that was sent underground was sent. They came upon the Avengers HQ just when they were planning to make the foxhole diggers, and they were made quick work of and retreated back. Because when I want to make that little point known, because when they were defeated and escaped, they're the group that Mole Man is seen like chewing out and saying that you guys are useless. I can't have you do I can't rely on you for the important things. And while he was finished chastising them, he hears a voice unfamiliar to him that he doesn't usually hear down there. And it's the voice of another Fantastic Four villain known as the Red Ghost, who was ex-Soviet scientist during the Soviet Union during the Cold War. And his main ability is being, as the name puts, ghost-like, intangibility, phasing through so he also can commune to other ghosts. More specific, he's more known for controlling ape-like ghosts. I believe it's a call to how Soviet whatever's was viewed as during the Cold War era. But he suggests that they make an alliance. Two geniuses are better than one, and together they can conquer the world quicker. But just as soon as Mole Man agrees, and before they can even make a plot together, the Avengers are already on their heads. And they're already wrecking shop against the Moles since they're a bigger squad. Wasp goes to find her boo. Ant-Man, Giant Man, he kind of goes in between the two, finds him, and Giant Man goes inside the gyroscope and shrinks and destroys the inner makings inside. And this causes both Red Ghost and Mole Man to make their escape. While they escape, the rest of the Avengers just continue to destroy the outside of the gyroscope to make certain that this thing cannot work again. And that's pretty much the adventure. The ending just pretty much chalks up to next day, the newspapers catch write about the Avengers' next victory, and the last panel is that Red Ghost and Mole Man are just arguing at each other and blaming one another over who messed up the most. And yeah, that's just about it for this episode. There's nothing really much that pushes the narrative further, other than the fact that it shows that it adds to how connected the Marvel Universe is beginning to be during this time. It's not until like give it maybe a decade or two to where they actually stick to more consistent storytelling than this episodic style that they do right now. But it's just to get you used to these the Avengers not only interacting with separate characters inside their joined book, but outside, and they also reference each other. That's why whenever I bring up different issues from stories that I haven't touched or aren't the most necessary, it's that these are related to issues that these separate Avengers or other characters in their world presenting the story, And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Thank you guys for hearing me out stopping by the tour bus again. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I will be doing my best to start posting to keep posting more to let you guys know I'm here to stay. And thank you again for making a trip on the comic tour, guys. This is Dom, your comic tour guide, and I'll see you in the next one.